Good evening, St. Lucia. Welcome to another episode of 758 Sports Talk. And we, as usual, have so much to get into tonight. And as you can see, the number to send your WhatsApp messages to join the conversation is 488-0929. That is not the number to call. We'll be opening the lines a little bit later on. But you could send your messages at 488-0929. As usual, we had a packed weekend of activities, and I must apologize first and foremost to the Northern Long Distance Walking Group. I pledged my desire to definitely do that walk around the island, and I was definitely serious. And I had a conversation with Sheffield Gillard from DBS earlier today. Well, I think no, last week on the weekend, who spoke about enjoying his first experience walking around the island. Well, I guess he got to Sufred, then he did it at phases, and I can guarantee you my every intention was to do it this year, but as fate and medical activities, physical activities would have it, I was not able to physically do it. So definitely we'll be looking to do that next year. My pledge was to get to Sufred this year. Since I did not do it this year, I will have to continue on track and make it to Viewfort next year for sure. But from all indications, well attended. The numbers seem to be accruing every year, and so well done, Northern Long Distance Group, and of course all the other organizations who had activities on the weekend in celebration of our independence. Well done to you guys. I must say that on the weekend I was absolutely impressed. I was very, very happy with proceedings in the WICB, or Windies Cricket Super 50. We saw the Windward Island Volcanoes coming out on top of that competition, defeating defending champions Barbados by 3 wickets. Close encounter towards the end, but then young Athens made it look very, very, very simple. And so we were able to come out on top in this competition. So hats off to the guys. Definitely, my interests would definitely be zooming in on our local St. Lucian talent. And when I look at what actually transpired, a little bit disappointed with Johnson Charles in terms of his time with the bat in the competition. Only got one score of note, and I say of note because it still didn't even get past 50, a score in the 40s. But generally not being able to go on and score as we would come to expect from Johnson Charles. So a little bit of concern there. The form that we expect to see from him, not there at all. He did make an attempt to apply himself in Saturday's game. He took 30 balls to get to 16 runs, and we've been asking for application time at the crease and not going after every ball. But even then, still not able to contribute with the bat. But in terms of wicket keeping, we were reminded that Johnson Charles is an all-round cricketer. We've seen Johnson Charles bowl medium pace. We've seen Johnson Charles bat, obviously. We got an opportunity to see him. We saw him at CPL on occasion when Fletcher was injured, taking the gloves. We saw that again on the weekend and in the semi-final as well. Doing very well. As a matter of fact, stumping that was very well executed in that final. I mean, could have changed the game, or did change the game, and so was proud at that moment. But Larry Edward from the Grosley area, all-rounder, and sometimes I have to wonder if people realize he's an actual batting all-rounder, unless Larry has changed drastically over the last year. From what I know, he's a batting all-rounder, but he is very competent with the ball, and we saw him pretty much being the pick of the bowlers for the Windward Islands. Very impressed with him. Last year played for combined campuses, was in and out of the squad, obviously. We know with regional cricket, combined campuses team, we sometimes get the short end of the stick, but playing for the Windward Islands, we see in him a main fixture in the team right now and doing very well. So obviously very impressed with Larry Edward and looking forward to see even bigger and better things from this local star. Well done, well done, well done. The crowning moment for me on the weekend was seeing that cameraman when he actually panned to Alton Crafton. I must say, in terms of what I know about Alton Crafton pretty much growing up, to see him as part of a champion team in our region, as part of the makeup of that team, was very, very fulfilling for me. As a little boy, grew up in the community of Grosile, grew up playing under 15 cricket, then under 19 cricket in the community of Grosile. I was probably, I'm not sure if the generation after me, immediately after me, experienced what a lot of Alton and I would say Alton, Kent, Ricky McDoom, John Eugene, those guys experience in terms of what it meant to be a cricketer. What it meant to be a cricketer then was pitch preparation, training, physical training, technique work, and spending time on the field. It was all encompassing. Obviously, my time of under 19 cricket, traveling to Labrie, Choiseul, playing, you have times where you camp and you get to experience the social aspect of cricket. I pretty much got to experience that with, Alton Crafton and the other guys, the Joe Halls of the world. And to see Alton Crafton move from opening batsman, very hard-hitting batter for St. Lucia, and obviously playing for the Windwards on a couple of occasions, to now perhaps one of the best coaches on island, and now actually part of the Windward Island Volcano setup. And when that camera just briefly panned on Alton Crafton, the pride I felt as a St. Lucian, as somebody from Grosile and the St. Lucia, was absolutely tremendous. And as we said, Kimani Melius, Kiana Joseph, his hand is on a lot of what's going on with grassroots cricket in St. Lucia. And so I want to say heartfelt congratulations to Alton Crafton and the Windward Island Volcanoes for their achievement. I said this morning on the banter on Vibe Radio that Kimani Melius is pretty much, we're expecting Kimani Melius to be on that Windward Island Volcanoes team in the not too distant future. Not to add or put any pressure, because people always hasten to say the boy young, don't put any pressure, but we saw young Athanas as part of the under 19 World Cup team now breaking into the Windward Islands team. So why at the end of the day wouldn't I feel jealous that a Dominican is on the team? Why wouldn't I want my St. Lucian compatriot there? My fear is, well, not fear, but what I think more than likely will happen is that he may be placed under the St. Lucian. I would really like to see Jono continue to be part of that team, but with what Kimani, and from speaking to him, his mentality and his application, his desire to continue to apply himself, what he is doing, I think very soon we'll be seeing him as part of that opening tandem. And Devon Smith is on the back end of his career, he's 36 years old, so it may be, Fletcher is going to be back, so it may be a choice between Johnson Charles and Kimani Melius. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But I'm certainly looking forward to seeing Kimani there, and I'll be following closely in terms of his progress with Alton Crafton to find out how he is doing. So definitely good stuff, a lot to look forward to from what I saw on the weekend, a lot to consider in terms of Johnson Charles. Something has to be done in terms of some introspection by him, and the persons around him need to probably gather together and figure this thing out. Figure what we need to do and move forward. So that was that on the Super 50 end of things. Well done, Windward Islands. Well done. Obviously, I need to get into a little bit of some other things that went on the weekend. We saw the Q Sports St. Lucia Inc. Independence 8-Ball Championship that was held on Saturday, and we saw the defending champion Mark Henry of Soufrière. He reclaimed his title, so that was very well done. Other information coming to our table: Mass United Insurance Inter-Schools Cricket Competition. The Junior De Rose sent me that story a while ago. Corinth Secondary School, they took on Entrepot Secondary School. Corinth Secondary got to 144. That was played at the Grosile playing field. Sheldon Busby top scored with 41. Lee Solomon got 18. Daniel Bissett, footballer, national footballer, talented young man, Shaw Grosile, scored 18, not out. It was left stranded on 18. For Entrepot, Tyra Chico was the pick of the bowlers, taking 4 for 29. Alright, in response, Entrepot got to 145 for 4 in 19 overs. Efren Charles, that's our Windward Islands under 15 cricketer, he got to 62. Denzel Roberts, that's from Grosile, that's son of former St. Lucia national fast bowler, top dog Roberts, scoring a 31 not out. So very well done there. Samuel Kade contributed 16 for Coram Secondary. Westin Delaware and Joseph Sheldon Busby took 1 wicket each. So Entrepot won by 6 wickets. We also have information on the Shoza Cooperative Credit Union 40 over competition. Kels Mongoose came out on top of that. I'll be featuring that in tomorrow night sport, so you can definitely look out for that. All right, so to what the matters that we have to deal with tonight. Not sure if anybody's been paying attention to local football. Not sure how many people have been paying active attention to local football. And when I say local football, I mean local football at every level, at the junior level, at the intermediate and senior level, and at the veterans level. We now have a veterans level that people are trying to get into sooner than later. That's so sad. But yeah, sad but true. And so we've seen a lot been going on, and we are right now the most important competition ongoing right now in the local football is the Division 1 Cup, and we've seen 8 teams featured in a competition that has ebbed and flowed, have captured the imagination of persons who want more club football. I want more club football. I don't know anybody in any nation, in any locality, in any district that don't want as much club football as they could get their hand on. And obviously, so there's a desire for club football. I mean, club football is what we follow on TV every weekend. You know, we have so many Barcelona fans, we have so many Manchester United fans. I don't know why they're back in Manchester United. We have so many Arsenal fans like myself, you know, Liverpool fans, you know, like my cousins and them in Grosley on Notre Dame Street. Ibrahim Ambrose, what's up? Linda, good night. But a lot of people follow actively club football, and we've spoken ad nauseum about club football and what we're going to do about club football and how we're going to approach club football. But I can tell you, this competition this year has embarrassed everybody that think they know local club football in terms of the teams, the makeup of the teams, who's strong and who not strong. Let's just put it like that. 9 out of 10 persons who follow football in St. Lucia pretty much would have had it wrong in terms of how they saw Division 1 football, this competition, this breviloquent competition this time around, how teams would have fared. Anybody who paid attention to the January transfer window would have told you without a shadow of a doubt that Uptown Rebels from Viewfort, Bosco, and I mean the organization in terms of the executive and what we've seen in terms of fundraising, in terms of the executive with moving Coco Bellas amongst those as part of the executive. These are persons that absolutely live and breathe football. And then when you see the likes of Noah Didier coming across to join this team, Bradley Tisaw coming across to join this team, and you look on paper, you see an Uptown Rebels team that looks, and I wouldn't say, I mean it's football, but looks superior to most teams in this year's competition. But football is always played on the day. And what have we seen so far? We've seen Alez from Ancillary was still bottom of the table, coming out with a draw against Uptown Rebels. Platinum FC, that would have always been a match to look out for because obviously noisy neighbors. Platinum finished second in the Division 1 Cup to Northern United last year. So obviously a team that has perhaps one of the most talented players, young and upcoming players in St. Lucia. Alvinus Myers is part of the setup, and there's so many other players. I think Gregson President is on that team. I mean, it's a team that is formidable enough. We saw them coming out with a point against Uptown. We saw VSADC, and again, we have to talk about club football from the bottom-up approach. We see so much activity on a VG playing field on a Saturday and a Sunday, and VSADC obviously part of that makeup. Now we've seen VSADC pretty much on top, level on points with Platinum. And we've seen Northern United, defending champions, a lot going on in terms of Northern United. Some players moving on, some players coming in from Dominica, some players coming in from La Clery, being part of the Northern United team, expected to gel well enough towards the back end, but early on seemed like possible two-time back-to-back champions. Still not too late. Still not too late, still very possible. Northern United from Grosley going down 2-0 to Platinum FC. I'm telling you, most of those scorelines, most people would have probably had it one way or the other. But we're seeing club football, 8 teams. We're seeing teams coming out and pretty much showing that they're on a level playing field. All teams are strong in the competition, which is what you want to see in club football. And so the discussion has begun. We have 8 teams in the Premier, in our District 1 Cup. Is 8 teams enough? Is the amount of club football enough? Should we be stretching it out during or in between certain tournaments? Number of things to get into. So, what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll take our Blue Waters break. We're going to take a sip of my Blue Waters because definitely always want persons to understand that definitely it's important to continue to consume your water. And as I've said, Blue Waters for me and for anybody. In fact, we may ask the president when he comes on set, which is the company that seem to sponsor and support sports and the most popular sport in St. Lucia, most in terms of providing that liquid courage. This is a liquid courage of sports, people. Water. And Blue Waters, always there, featured as a sponsor. And so I'm going to take a Blue Waters break, have a little bit to drink. When we come back, we'll have our discussion with Mr. Lyndon Cooper, who's the president of the SLFA, and we'll take your calls a little bit later. You can continue to send your messages at 488-0929. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 758 Sports Talk, and as you can see, my guest tonight is none other than the president of the St. Lucia Football Association, Mr. Lyndon Cooper, in charge with football affairs in St. Lucia. How are you doing, sir? Welcome to our set. This is your first time on 758 Sports Talk, and so definitely we'll get to you in a little bit. Let me just get to a couple messages quickly before we get into our discussion on football tonight. Good night, Kenson. A great show as usual. I just want to comment on the first division in its current format. I must admit I am disappointed with it as it stands, as I believe we doing our clubs no justice by only playing one round of games and expect the winning club to give a good account of themselves at CONCACAF level, basically setting them up to fail. I know many persons may say the FA is operating on limited resources, but if we expect our team to do good at the highest level, we must have things in place for them to do. So I believe having them play more games as in home and away format is one of the ways to do so. Wow. Definitely we'll be touching every aspect of football tonight, so persons are already in on the act. All right, somebody says, I guess pretty soon young Melius will easily make his way into the Windward senior team as Devon Smith makes his way out. This will clear the way for him. This is a time for the young man to reflect on his game and watch and learn as much and as quick as he can. Definitely, totally agree. All right, so somebody is saying, how is football? That's the very first question I have for my guest tonight, and so we will definitely be talking football tonight. Yes, football tonight with Mr. Lyndon Cooper. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and thanks for having me, Kenson.
All right, definitely we'll be talking a lot about football. So I guess the first question, definitely, what would you say as the president of the SLFA is the state of football in St. Lucia?
You might be asking the wrong person because you should be aware of what the answer is going to be. We think from an SLFA standpoint that the game has grown over 8 years, and we think that we are in a position to ensure that it moves in the direction and the height that we anticipated it should get by 2020. And that's basically where we are. If you take a look, if you're following football, you will recognize that there have been a major shift in the direction in the last six years, and that was explained 6 years ago, and it is now time for us to begin to ensure that the game is actually settled for us to propel it to higher heights.
I guess the follow-up question would be, the expectation would have been, the answer would have been that it has developed, coming from you, like you said, if you ask me. Yeah. I mean, definitely. So the next question would be, how would you say it has developed over the last couple of years?
What we have done in the last 6 years, and if you recognize that I've been consistent in quoting the period of time, because the policy decision was made 6 years ago where we indicated that we were going to de-emphasize and refocus, and that is exactly what we have done now. what we have managed to do in the last 6 years is to bring a level of new club structure, which we knew that was going to come based on a requirement of FIFA and CONCACAF, and all that aim was to develop the game and basically to ensure that we could move the sport of football forward. Kenson, what you have to pay attention to is the fact that we have an abnormal system of football in this country. We may be the only one subject to correction, but at least we not. If there are no association, 5 associations in the world that manage 2 streams of football club and district, and that is a challenge for us. And I think that we have done exceedingly well for us to have managed and create a balance between the two. Nowhere else does this. Every national federation in the world responsibility is to develop the game, not to commercialize it.
All right. Okay. So definitely, in terms of football development, obviously you would be the visionaire. What is your goal, and what would you say is your vision for St. Lucian football?
Whatsoever we exhibit, we do it as an organization. The only probably good thing about the organization is that I am not leading from the back, and I made those pronouncements when I took over. That's one organization that's not going to have a president Holly that leads from the back, and at no time that the tail is going to walk the dog. And then that is basically where we are. Our mandate as a member of FIFA, we have a responsibility, and we have to go and develop and to go and prepare for the next World Cup. And we need to readjust to the modification to ensure that we meet that long-term goal.
Right. So what would you say would be your challenge, the biggest challenge the SLFA would face in you guys realizing that actual goal that you just highlighted?
If you had asked that question 6 years ago, we would have told you that it is resources, both human and finance. Mm-hmm. Now, the challenge for us is the human resource, the technical competence of the game and the individuals in it. We think that despite all the courses that we have done, we should have, as a country, football show have been much further than where it is in terms of on the field, and that we think is because of we have the level of play that we anticipating, and it could be as a result of our 2 streams of football, because we're not actually focusing on one stream. We want to create a balance.
All right. So let's get into the actual specifics, the different levels of football that we have in St. Lucia right now. In terms of youth football, I think you've probably heard that question a million times and you've probably answered it. But for the benefit of those who probably are tuning in for the first time, de-emphasizing club football. You said it. You've said
senior, not club. Senior.
Sorry.
That definitely goes with club and
senior football. De-emphasizing senior football. Mm-hmm. What does Lyndon Cooper mean by de-emphasizing senior football, and why is there why is it necessary to de-emphasize senior football?
That pronouncement was made six years ago. What we were saying is that if we have $10, we're not going to spend 5 on district and 5 on clubs. We are going to spend 1 on the district, maybe $1 on the district, 75 cents on the club, and our balance on the base of the thing by developing the club structure, making sure they are compliance issue, and ensuring that the clubs are the lifeblood of football. So at the end of the day, the district is going to have competent teams in terms of technical and administration, which is going to propel the district to where we want it to go. But the intention at no time was to destroy it. It was to just spend less time on it in order to rebuild it. But we knew club licensing was coming and it was mandatory for us.
All right, so one would say that, okay, when you make a statement that you're going to de-emphasize the senior football, that you isolate, so to speak, a certain segment of the population. In terms of, the question would be, what happens to those individuals that are pretty much at a senior level who are going to receive, let's just say, the 75 cents out of the $10 that the SLFA would allocate. What do you say to these individuals?
There have never been a shutdown of senior football. What you did not see is the output in terms of national teams. What we did not do is to take the senior players form into our national team and go and compete continuously. Because if you recognize, when we took over in the 6 years ago, we moved our national team from a second place into islands into a first place, and in the third year after spending just less than $400,000 towards our Islands tournament, this last we went into an international friendly. We lost 2-1. We went into World Cup 2 games. We had Antigua, I think 3-1. When they came back 5 or 7, they beat us. That was an indication that area was on the decline, and we needed to stabilize it. And stabilizing it did not mean for us to continue competing at that age group. What we did simultaneously is to spend no more cent on the national team in order to compete and begin to restructure from under 15 down. And that's why today we have a couple of players at the under 20 level. At least they should be 21 now, getting ready for domestic competition under 23 that's supposed to start in the next 2 or 3 weeks in preparation for the Olympic qualifier. Kenton, once we get out of the Olympic qualifiers, it means that we will be ready to move this country in the area that you think that which you may want to call senior football.
All right, so we touching on competition. So we're seeing a number of communities, as I mentioned in my preamble, the CFC. We see so much football in terms of a Saturday and Sunday when the field is up and running. We see a lot of the competitions, and we see in some of the development of that onto a VSADC team that features the likes of Shaquille Degazor, Jonathan Symphorian, those people who came from the youth system. What is the actual I would say vision for the youth football and developing it around the island? Because I asked this question because I was very, very impressed a couple of Fridays ago when I made a trek to Deriso for the launch of the grassroots cricket program by El Niños. And I mean, I sat down there and I saw a presentation and I saw so much going on in terms of this small community in terms of developing football. Is this something that the SLFA is encouraging for the island, and how exactly are we going to get the youth football to be what you've coined as the main thing, mainstay for the SLFA?
6 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we had to complete the club licensing system, because as we indicated, it was something that was superimposed on us as part of our whole body. And what we knew that was that every single club had to have a youth development program. Now we are aware that each team within the 118 we had could not have given us 11 aside under 15, under 17, and under 20. So what we began doing is to try to encourage the kids to be registered within the clubs, and we have been pushing that mandate in the last 2.5 years, and we have been given, I think, 8 or 9 deadlines to complete that process, and we finally decided 2017 December 31st was the final 11th the deadline where all the clubs who want to be licensed must have a youth development program. And the youth development program is not necessarily 11 boys or 11 girls. It's a resemblance of a portion of kids who wants to play football. We are going to register them into our system to ensure that they remain loyal to your club. There is not one district in this country that is a member of the SLFA in the 19 that we have who have had that type of program that we saw that we have not given the necessary assistance. All the under 13 development leagues we have in zones, all the equipments, all the transportation, all the prices are being funded solely by the SLFA. not 1 cent from any private sector or government.
With the club licensing and obviously clubs being bona fide, we don't have moving away from teams to actual clubs. What are some of the what is the contribution from the SLFA to, because you're asking individuals to move away from being, ad hoc organizations to forming organizations and to having those sort of grassroots programs, executives doing things. What is the SLFA's contribution to those clubs that are actually licensed?
The fact of the matter is there's no negotiation on the compliance issue because FIFA is going to do once we complete that process next six weeks a spot check, and they could come up and call any club and let them show what is the requirement. Once those clubs get into that, what we have agreed to as an organization is to support them both financially and technically. I will not sit here and say that we are going to give them $500,000 because we have 87. But the fact is that they have a right to benefit from the resources of the SLFA.
87 licensed clubs.
Not licensed, that on the verge of being licensed. We have
in St. Lucia
spot checks to do, and the spot check may result in next 6 weeks that we only belong to 55 or 60.
Okay. All right, definitely interesting that that figure 87. I guess we'll go back to that a little bit later on. You're talking about Division 1, and we're talking about the number of teams in the Division 1 football competition. But a question that I must ask to you, because persons ask me as somebody they see at sports venues very often, and it's the question on discipline in sports. Most of the individuals who would stop me, let's just say for instance, I would tell you in Soufriere, I was at a supermarket once, and I came out of the supermarket and somebody stopped me and told me that there was a fight at one of the games, and apparently the SLFA was taking disciplinary action. But to the individual, the problem is that the SLFA, let me be specific, Lyndon Cooper, is taking forever to deal with disciplinary action for a team, and as such the activities as a club or as a, let's just say, as the entire district, the composition of the district is being affected because there's a delay in what the SLFA is doing when it comes to discipline. Why exactly does that happen, and what is the SLFA's position when it comes to dealing with those disciplinary issues?
I will take the blame for all the negatives that characterize the game of football, but I've also said that once I'm taking the negative, I'm going to take the positive. When you qualify for our World Cup, I will be back here saying who caused this country to qualify. Also, there is going to be no rush to deal with any disciplinary matters. The process is a very simple one. An offense appeared to have been committed. The report comes to the SLFA. We have a compliance unit that take a look at it, and the policy is once we think that there is sufficient evidence to launch an investigation, we have to administratively suspend the club or the individual. What we have been trying to avoid is not to keep those persons or the clubs into competition in order for them to commit more of the offenses. So it's important for us to actually remove them. The challenge for us is that we do not have the resources to deal with 31 matters in 2 months. I'll tell you what happened to us once. I think it may have been 8 or 9 years ago. We attempted to expedite a matter where Soufriere was involved, where we made a decision not to take the points from I think it would have been Soufriere district team against Mikud, because we interpreted the regulations as meaning that the time period to launch a complaint had passed. Mikud took the matter to the appeals committee, and we forced the appeals committee to meet earlier than planned, because the finals or the semi-finals was the weekend and they only had 6 or 7 days. They met on the Friday. They made the decision immediately, and they reversed the decision of the SLFA, and they awarded the points to Mikud. The game proceeded without Soufriere, I think on the Saturday or the Sunday. When we went down into Soufriere, what we saw was a goalpost was in the river, because we attempted to expedite the matter. If we had taken the file, get our legal people to take a look artists, there would have been no goalposts in the river because we would have planned the presentation of our action properly. So there's going to be no hesitation. We are not going to hesitate in trying to even please anybody by expediting anything. We are going to prepare the file, and if the file takes us 35 years, that is just the issue we feel. But Kenson, we have to move away from that system we trying to create. The 2017 was the most difficult year that I have been asked to preside over the SLFA. Indiscipline skyrocketed by over 100%. Referee got beat. Under 14 kids run onto the field to fight to mash it up, and people is now asking to expedite. Why would you want to take your resources and expedite when the indiscipline is on the rise? What we need to do, Kenson, the media, you, myself, need to stop attempting to make people think that Judas is a Messiah. He is not. The wrong have been committed, especially on the so case. I may not be able to give all the information because those are evident. But what actually happened, there is no reason for anybody to ask for anything.
Any rush? All right. Okay. So similar concerns. We're dealing with some of the concerns when it comes to football in St. Lucia. The refereeing, definitely persons have lamented. I was pretty much, after the veterans football finals in the View Fort, I was one of those. I always hasten when I get on TV to understand my responsibility. Referees' decisions are final. We need to understand that. I was coached that way. But there comes a point where it becomes frustrating when referees seem to mess up all the time. What is the SLFA doing about the situation of refereeing in St. Lucia?
I don't want to make it clear, Kenson, that the referee decision is not final. If you give it the interpretation that it's supposed to be, it means that on the field. In terms of dissent,
on the D,
the referee can't blow that, and the player could tell the referee where to go and put the results. That is what it means. But there are areas in the law, if the referee misconstruct and he did not have the power to do that, that is subject to be revisited. That is the reality of it. Now, I am not going to sit there and tell you what the decisions of referees are. I need to see the incident and to make a pronouncement on it, because I've had incidents where persons have reported bad decisions to me, and when I go and launch the investigation, it's not about the decision. Persons that just don't show an appreciation to what the referee has to do. The referee has to run. He has to take a look at the game, and that's one of the reasons why in international games, when the games are being broadcast in the stadium, the replays are actually banned and abolished. It's simply because of those incidents. So it's not necessary. I'm not saying that the referees are doing a fantastic job, but I think that the criticism, both from certain persons in the media, the fans and the public, are unwarranted and not justifiable.
All right. Okay, so we have a number of things to get into, but I really want to definitely press you on that, because it's another thing that, as a sports individual, being present on fields, that I hear a lot of. Mr. Lyndon Cooper many times have been described as the SLFA treasurer. Let me tell you why. In terms of the perception is, and I choose my words carefully, that the SLFA, St. Lucia Football Association, gets a very large amount in their kitty on an annual basis, better comparative to other associations in St. Lucia, and the perception is that a lot of it is just not being spent by the SLFA. That's one of the perceptions, that is not being spent by the SLFA, and if it is being spent by the SLFA, a lot of individuals ask where. What do you say to these individuals?
I'm not the treasurer of the SLFA. We don't even have a treasurer. We have a general secretary and the structure that is responsible for the
But
finances.
generally they say you control the money.
And no, I control football in this country as the leader. I do not have the first and last say on anything. What persons see is that they see the output, and when the position is taken, it's simply because it's part of a plan. That's just the way where it is. I'm not sure who is saying that we're not spending the money. If you give me the different groups, I'll be able to explain that, because I know that that is an unfair statement and out of the extraordinary. 4 years ago, when we run the Windward Islands tournament, and because it was earmarked for both issue and we did not want to cancel, and we shifted it to Viewport, the expenditure went up by 100%.
Well,
We spent just less than $400,000. We had to transport every single team down. The security bill went up by 89%. So if you're still asking, when the under 17 team went to Honduras 2 years ago, we spent just below $500,000. Less than 2% of that was from government and the private sector. Those monies were not planted, and we are still paying some of those debts. That is the reality of it. And sometimes the surprising side of those comments are people don't understand that FIFA monies are not spent black is white. You have to do your budget, you have to do your forecast, and they approve the money based on the budget. There's an audit FIFA does every single year based on what they approve for you. So if they're not seeing the money, we just bought an artificial turf for $500,000, which is going to be should be completed by July.
it's the gold project.
August. Every single under 13, under 14 that is run in this country is being contributed by the SLFA. Every single football below the age of 23. Those things those things are not being given to us. We have a responsibility to develop the game, and we're going to do it. Probably those who are saying that cancer are not those that actually get that are actually getting it directly. But if you tell me one of my in my 19 leagues who makes those pronouncement, I'm gonna resign now.
Well, I'm going to tell you, none of it came from
Right,
any
so-
of the leagues.
So I don't expect
It
nobody
just-
who is not part of the structure to see it. We have actually increased the first division expenditure by 100%.
Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about district. We're going to talk about the Division 1 Cup, and then we're going to take a break, and then definitely with no person itching to join the conversation. I know my phone has been ringing for a little while now. Division 1 Cup, we're seeing right now, that's big players on our screen right now. One of the teams that we had to look out for in this year's competition. We're seeing perhaps, if you go online, if you get responses, if you get persons who have actually attended the games, in terms of the quality of football, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is 8 teams featured in a competition that persons really just did not know what to expect when they got to the field. Division 1, we have 8 teams in the competition. Every single individual who is following football wants to know why 8 teams.
Kenson, one of the comments that may have come before I was introduced was that the 7 games to go CONCACAF is that the SLFA is setting up the teams to fail. And I think setting up is a negative word, and it is inappropriate and reckless. I do not leave my home as SLFA president, come into town to destroy anybody, to set up anybody, to offend nobody, or to ridicule anybody. Once I get up in the morning, I pray, and I come into town. I'm coming to see what bridge that could be built to allow this country to move forward in football. What red carpet somebody could lay in order to build that opportunity for our kids and to us to go to the next World Cup. So if those persons think that is set up, that's their business. We don't leave our homes and come and set up anybody. We really don't have the time for that. We run 2 streams of football. We have 10 months in the calendar, Kenson. 10. January, February is for us to prepare our programs in terms of to go to our Congress on the 4th of March. Football actually starts from the 1st of March simply because we have budgets to approve into December. We have a minimum of 7 national teams to get ready. We need to run some tournaments to ensure that we have the kids playing in order to see them outside of the core. We have the inter-districts that we have at least under 15, under 17, under 20 to deal with. We have the youth component, the grassroots part, where we now force every district to do something and we support it, either from a district standpoint or from a zone. 4 months ago, we registered in the under 13 during the Christmas season, at least 70 some 189 kids on the eastern side of this country. It cost us close to $7,000 in terms of trophy medals, contribution to transportation. Nobody's paying transportation for the under 13 kids to come and play football. It's our responsibility because nobody's doing it. But if you see a senior competition, it's easier for a politician to pay 6 buses for a black card than the under 14 kids. So we're not going to spend money on senior football when we know the kids are not being given the necessary assistance to come to play. So those are that is now in trying to prepare the program between March 1st and December 1st. It's always a challenge for us for tournaments not to overlap because we don't have the referee opportunities, the cadre of referees to run all the tournaments that overlap. We had to redo the club simply because if you recognize the first division was sometime in September, October, after Black Card, we had to push it in the first quarter because CONCACAF is saying towards the club must be handed over to them by July for the tournament that starts in February. So you see the period of time that the international organization has to prepare. So we then had to shift it. We took a look at what was the issues. All the teams said that they don't like playing twice a week. If they lose, they can come back and go back to the drawing board. I say, fine, you have to give up something. So we agreed that they're going to give up their home venues. That's why we went into Bosley, Ancillary, and Viewfort. And then we had to play the first set of games in the north to facilitate Northern for playing their first 4 games because that's a cricket season. We had to go to Ancillary to create the balance, and we have contributed at least $1,000 to each of the host teams to go towards lights and that. And we have already added in the budget that we're going to approve on Saturday all the price structure for the first division. So if we have to give the first division 14 games, there's the President's Cup, which we have to zone simply because of transportation costs. So if you have to do the President's Cup across those, them teams ain't got money to play for in games. And plus we have the promotional league, which is part of the club championship. So we have first division, we have President's Cup, and we have the promotional in each of the leagues. And the promotional has been not subsidized by over 55% of the budget is funded by the ASLFA. So we have to create the balance.
All right. Okay, so definitely, St. Lucia, we're going to definitely pause. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to open the phone lines. We'll take some of your messages and we'll open the phone lines. I just want to say, in terms of just my perception on this is just my opinion on the Division 1 Cup being seen as preparation for CONCACAF. Because I think a lot of the times in St. Lucia, if we're not depending on government, we're depending on the governing body. I don't think it's the SLFA's responsibility to prepare Platinum FC for CONCACAF football. If you have a club structure, a proper club structure, which is what basically being espoused, you have, at the end of the day, let's just say Uptown Rebels, you have a club, you have an executive, you have a president, you have a PRO, you have a coach, you have all these people. Why would you have to wait for the SLFA and say the 7 games that you're playing is preparing you for CONCACAF? And as the SLFA preparing you for that, I just see things differently when people tend to go straight to the top and look at government and ask them to do everything. And similarly in football, look at SLFA and say, prepares for CONCACAF. And that's my opinion. I guess when we come back, we'll have more about that to discuss. And we'll open the lines for you guys. And I will definitely take in some of your messages. We'll be right back. All right, the 4519788 is the number to call. We're going to open the lines. We're talking football with the president of the St. Lucia Football Association, Mr. Lyndon Cooper. And 4880929 is the number to send your WhatsApp messages. I have a couple of messages here. Somebody says, Kenson, Mr. Cooper, good night. I'm enjoying the discussion tonight, but I want to ask the president what is his views on Black Hat, Super League, and veterans competitions. Also, I heard the Minister of Sports demanding from the SLFA to bring back district football. How do you look at that?
Well, Black Hat is on the calendar, and I think it's going to remain there as long as I remain at the SLFA. And the reasons are simple. They are in compliance in every other relationship. But I just want to inform every single viewer this evening, we're just facilitating all those tournaments. We don't have the space to have all those tournaments. That's just the reality of it. And the match officials are directly under the control of the SLFA. We have to intertwine, intermix, modify it in such a way that we could free up some of the officials in order to go and execute those tournaments for us. So it's a strain on us. Visions, same thing, we just facilitating it in terms of where it was slated, because we have under 15, we have to prepare for August every year. 1 year is boys and 1 year is girls, and we have under 17 World Cup, under 20 World Cup, and all those tournaments are in the first half. So we just facilitating it simply because we're not pushing the senior district tournament. So that's one of the reasons. The veterans is the same thing. The officials are controlled and executed or pushed into the tournament by us based on the requirements of the international body, that all the bodies that we deal with, once we sanction it, it means that it must be in compliance with FIFA rules, and no matter whether it's veterans or Super League or Black Hat. Once we are going to endorse it and any of our members actually playing in those competitions, they must be in compliance. Failure to be in compliance, we just may not see a next veteran or a next Black Hat or a next Super League. That's just the reality of it, and we're not going to see it at the SLFA and allow any of them tournaments through their agents or their loved ones to attempt to destroy that level of tournament or its integrity, because we have a responsibility to protect the game. And to spend the time on the district tournament that the minister has proposed. I think I would the minister in the last year on 2 occasions making those announcements, and I think it's a responsibility that the SLFA have to address it. It's not something that I would have wanted to address one year ago, but I think at that stage now we're in a position to take a look. I think we have already prepared the concept paper. We are going to submit it to him in the next 10 or 15 days. We have a new format for the tournament, and once the government is prepared to fund it, we are going to push it within probably in the first 6 months of this month. In fact, we have already allocated we are already allocated in our budget something close to $100,000 for that tournament, not in terms of prize money, but in terms of building the youth base of those things. But we are aware that if the district does not have a youth team, the district team is going to fail for 4 or 5 years from that, and we're not entertaining any district that don't have a youth component. So the money we are allocating is more to build the base of those things, both male and female.
All right. Somebody says the Western Zone appears to be the weakest of the 4 zones administratively and financially. What plans, if any, are there to assist in this regard? SLFA regulations indicate the minimum number of clubs within any league is 5. Are there any plans to review this regulation and reduce the number to 3? What is the thought process behind this decision? Okay, we'll come back to this a question. Good evening. You're live on 758 Sports Talk. Go ahead with your contribution.
Hi, good night. I don't have a contribution per se, but I just wanted to say belated birthday greetings to you, Kenton.
Thank you so much.
I hope you had a wonderful day yesterday.
I did, okay, and I'm thankful to my close friends who are, generous enough to call and wish me happy birthday. I really had a really hell of a time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Alright, yes. Yeah, boss, you call me on my birthday, boss. Anyway, yes, so the SLFA regulations indicate the minimum number of clubs within any league is 5. Are there any plans to review this regulation or reduce the number to 3? What is the thought process behind this? And of course, the question towards Western Zone in terms of financial support.
I don't share the view that the Western Zone is the weakest, both administratively and financially. What we have noticed in 2017 for the Western Zone is the most improved, the most improved league. And secondly, weak financially is weak financially across every single country. Everywhere in the country, the leagues are financially weak. When you see a league gets a sponsorship of $10,000 for its first prize team, that money does not go to the league, it goes to the club. That does not make the league financially viable. What it does, it contributes to destroying the integrity of the game, because the monies are not being replowed into the development of the club. That is a challenge we have. The second thing is that because we knew that club licensing was going to affect a lot of the members, we were aware that we have made a decision. In fact, we had an extraordinary congress sometime in January where we went through the budget, the programs, the activities, and the changes, and we have already proposed on the table for Saturday. In fact, Saturday is going to be the annual congress. On Saturday, we are expecting that all the leagues to approve a resolution where we're going to ask them to amend a section in the constitution from, in fact, the minimum amount of teams each league needs to have now is 6. We are going to amend that on Saturday to facilitate a minimum of 3 licensed clubs. So anything after 30 days after Saturday 3rd, and we cannot get that after we have done all the sports check. The reality is we are going to dismantle that league.
Okay. All right. So we have a number of questions coming through here. All right. And let me see this. All right. I saw one a while ago. I definitely want to open it because I was curious. I disagree with you, Kenson, because playing in your league and playing in the national tournament is playing on 2 different levels. With the national league being the highest, it would be in your best interest, if you have aspirations of playing at the CONCACAF level, to be playing more games in the national league. Okay, so let me just address that, because obviously the person disagree with me, and I like when persons disagree with me on anything that I say, because it gives me a chance to respond. I personally, there is a word that is used to describe persons in terms of their constant dependence on leaders, politicians, governments, governing bodies, mendicants, beggars. And my response in terms of persons saying that the SLFA is responsible for, or the Division 1 Cup does not lend itself to preparing for that sort of CONCACAF thing is because I believe a lot of the times we sit down and we wait for governments, governing bodies to do something. My response was, as a club, from now until the next competition, preparation for that level, Division 1 of football and CONCACAF, should be within the teams. Now, you would say, and rightly say, that you need to be playing at a particular level. My position on playing at a particular level is done again, can be done at a club level. You do not need the SLFA to organize a game between Platinum FC and Uptown Rebels from Beaufort, or Platinum FC and Uptown Rebels and Northern United, or big players versus VSADC. So if you're going to say that you need more on that level, then I'm still going to disagree with you, because I still believe at the club level, you have a president, you have an administrator, you have a PRO, you should have a finance team to raise funds, to go to the different aspects of corporate solution to get support to organize those games and play on that level. So you do not have to necessarily wait for a competition to prepare. Do I, Kenson Casby, want more club football? I think definitely, of course. I would want, as I've written on, I would want to see home and away. I would want to see home and away and still away again. That is my position. But I do not believe that you necessarily have to wait for the SLFA for you to be playing on that level. That's just my position.
Yeah, but the club also has between, when it's tournament slated to end, between April and December, to go with all its international engagements. If they ask the SLFA for 10 tickets to do an international friendly, the SLFA is not going to turn them down. But I don't think that it can be argued based on the SLFA's program that for us to move for more games in that structured way.
All right, we have another caller. Good evening. You're live. Go ahead for contribution.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Kazimi. Good night, Mr. Cooper. Very interesting discussion. Kenton, there's a saying which goes, you never miss the water till the well gone dry. That is me tonight. Last weekend was a very, very, very...
You want more DJ Dunga Mackerson Cup? Well, you wondering what's to do this weekend?
And persons, keep on telling me, they wish, finals was last weekend. Kenton, I would like to take the opportunity once again, to thank everybody, just about everybody, who, supported, throughout the tournament. Mr. Cooper, I'd like to thank you, sir, for your presence and also your advice. And of course, I'm looking forward to working with you again. Kenton, you as well. I don't think you can, Kenton. why not say? Come up here, partners for this year's tournament, BDCL, Valton, Mr. Kendall Emmanuel, Mr. James Prospect, Constable, my team, the DJs,
Constable.
Yeah, and the list goes on. I want to say thank you to everybody, those who criticize and those, who advise, and the list goes on. So thank you to everybody, who supported this tournament. And of course, I'm looking forward to a bigger and better tournament. Once again, gentlemen, very, very interesting decision tonight.
All right. Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah. All right, man. Looking forward to Mackerson Cup next year for sure. Looking forward to that expansion for sure. All right. Somebody asked, yeah, man. Okay. Somebody asked, what's the current status of the goal project currently going on, and what's the time frame for completion?
Phase 1 of the goal project is the laying down of the artificial turf and the superimposition of a security fence. It should be completed based on the contractual arrangement sometime in August. That's in the event that we have less, not more, less bad weather. Because you can't say more, less, because you're going to get rain, unpredictable. So once we get that should be completed by that time.
All right.
The work has already started sometime in end of January.
Okay. All right. So somebody says SLFA decided that only licensed teams would be participating in the first division football tournament. There is evidence a particular team does not possess half of the criteria to be eligible, but here they are participating in this competition. He just mentioned youth development. That's one of the criteria they don't possess. They have no youth team among the other criteria. What actions are in place for incompetent leagues that do not do what is required of them? Example, getting the information from the SLFA and not passing on to the clubs. Hold on 1 second, we get back to that. Good evening, you're live. Go ahead for contribution.
Hey, weekends and good night, and good night to Mr. Cooper.
Good night, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to lend my voice to the discourse, right? I tend to agree with you, Kenton, from the standpoint of, dependency on governing bodies or governing institutions, to make things happen. I mean, within the same structure of football, if you're talking about preparation, look at the divisions competition, look at the blackout competition. You have teams training, going into camps for months in advance, preparing for tournaments like that. They play friendly games amongst themselves, preparing for tournaments like that. So why is it at the club level that it must be the SLFA that has to prepare them to go into? I mean, you going into a competition where you have an appreciation that you can qualify for the CONCACAF level, right? We've seen teams, take advantage of the transfer window, bringing in players, strengthening their squads, etc. And clearly they are doing that so that they can prepare to win a particular tournament. The SLFA is already inputting funds into assisting with travel expenses, etc., which I don't think they have to do. But they are assisted in that regard. So I think the onus is on the clubs.
Excuse me. Sorry,
that that they have solid enough structures, as you indicated, that they are organized well enough, that they do not have to depend on the nature of the competition to be prepared for the next level. You know, we have to start moving away from that. I mean, also, I asked a question via the platform. I don't think you had time to get to it.
Well, I haven't gotten to a lot.
Since I'm on, I will just ask it now. I mean, the SLFA runs several tiers of competitions at the youth level, at the district level, right? I would like Mr. Cooper to say, you know, what the general cost is of running one competition and how much of that cost is deferred by sponsorship money, so that people get an appreciation for how much money that the SLFA spends just from a standpoint of putting on competitions. I also would like for him to probably disclose. I don't know if it should be public information, but if it can be made public, that would be great. Also disclose how much it costs to run his secretariat, so that people have an appreciation for how much money that the SLFA, you know, dishes out. I could recall having some discourse with you just recently in terms of referee fees, you know, how much that costs, you know. So if probably Mr. Cooper can, you know, give us an idea of those figures so that people can actually put numbers, because it's very easy for you to sit back and criticize. It's very easy for you to say that the SLFA is not spending money. It's very easy for you to say that the SLFA is not assisting, etc. But I think if you look at the body of work that the SLFA has done over the last few years, and culminating in that gold medal that we just recently won, you can see that there is, you know, a gradual progression in terms of where we're going with football. There are a lot more kids playing football around the island, and I think that is the mandate of the SLFA, to grow the sport. That is what FIFA's mandate is, to grow the sport, and I think that, you know, they are going along those lines. So a lot of the criticism, I think, is unfair. I think it's more personality driven than it is based on what actually obtains in the realm of football. I do have one critique for Mr. Cooper, though, in terms of his softer skills, you know, how he deals with particular situations and how he deals with individuals. Maybe that is an area that he needs to improve upon, so that some of these attacks, basically, you know, can be tempered, because I think a lot of them are just personality things as opposed to what actually obtains. I will listen offline for his response.
All right. Yeah, definitely a lot in there to discuss.
Three things. Let me take the last first in terms of temper and changing style. My position is a very simple one. If I share the conclusion that the individual is personally attacking me, I shut down the information. There is no communication. I'm not breaking bread. I'm not drinking wine. I just end. That is long and short of the story. I don't have the time to engage people who have drawn the conclusion are personal people who are attacking me personally. I have that time for that, boss. I have an organization to run that is overwhelmed with work, and the programs have been redeveloped every year. Looking 2018 now as we speak, we are already commenced preparation to run under 14 competition, both north, south, east, west, because we must have an under 14 team to compete in the CFA tournament. Before, it would have been under 15. Next year, now we are forced to do under 14 in order to give the kids more playing time. So when you go to the under 15, we are better prepared. All the under 14 zones tournaments that are going to start canceled in the next 3 or 4 weeks. 89% of the budget is being funded by the SLFA. That's the reality of it. So I'm not going to spend time on persons who want to attack me.
Yeah, but the caller was asking for, in terms of just generally about how much would it cost.
The secretariat costs recurrent expenditure just below 500,000
yearly.
And we are now in the process of trying to bring together in the next 4 or 5 weeks for when Coach 2 to head our Olympic team, which is going to take an additional huge sum of money. That is the reality of it. We have a secretariat, and the figures may indicate that we need to now cut back 15% of the cost of the building in terms of maintenance, and we have not cut down on any recurrent expenditure. We have put in more more money into football. We have an artificial turf which we're going to begin to have to secure. We have to cut down, and we have not even made the decision where we're going to make the cuts. That's just the reality.
Right. Okay.
And the contribution for us in terms of sponsorship is extremely small. Extremely small.
In terms of corporate solution.
Yeah, because we have a responsibility to run the tournaments. Like, we could not have waited when we made the decision in November to shift the club from October to January. Even though we had sent out 3 or 4 sponsorship proposals, we could not have waited for them to come back and tell us no. We had to do it because we wanted to give the CONCACAF the team within the time frame. This is the real. We have to find the resources to run the tournament.
All right. So somebody says SLFA don't have a correct structure, and you want the clubs to have a structure. What is the time period for a president to stay at the helm of the SLFA? What is your biggest accomplishment, and what would you say is your biggest downfall? Or why does the SLFA's number 1 referee officiating? Why isn't he officiating any games? That's a number of questions there. Why isn't he officiating a number of games?
I don't have the answer for none of those questions. Once the caller is going to end with why the number 1 referee, those are personal issues to me. We have gone through that, we have vented that, we have made SLFA's position clear on that. Coming back 1 year later on that same issue, it's been inward.
All right. So somebody is the guy is saying that we didn't go back to the questions. What actions are in place for the same question in terms of incompetent leagues that do not do what is required of them? Example, getting information to the SLFA and not passing on the clubs in the community, have eligible candidate for awards and not nominating the players. A particular league president pushing for their club's advancement, even going as far as registering bogus clubs. Are there any records or any information that this is currently going on, according to, from your knowledge?
No, I'm not aware that there are any bogus clubs. All the clubs that we have in our system that we have a list at those, we are going to do the spot check on. That's 89 of them, and once they do not meet the requirements, they're not going to be issued with licenses. Now, I am not sure which league does not pass on the.
That's why I just asked the individual I'm telling the individual is not being specific enough. So yeah,
what we know for sure in that when we prepare our awards, we did not get all the information we wanted within the time frame because it may have been too short. We have made a decision which we're going to rediscuss it to see, but it's to introduce an award category within our sports football awards for the clubs, specifically the athletic club championship, so that we could create balance. I think that we may be asking the leagues to do too many things within a short space of time, and they do not have the full-time support like the SLFA to do it. So you're not going to see me bashing any one of them. If I have a difficulty with them, they know we are going to give them the necessary support in order to achieve the plan. But I am not aware that information is not being passed on.
Okay. All right. Can you ascertain in detail how the growth in football has impacted on the quality of the game, with specific reference to the most important component of the game, that is the player? Also, isn't development and commercialization of the game interrelated and highly dependent on each other? Shouldn't the strategy be to find a balance between the two in order to help finance football at the club level, in the process sowing the seeds that can manifest value for all stakeholders?
No, I agree. We have to find the balance, but finding the balance is not going to come within 3 or 4 years, because do not forget we start club football in over 6 or 8 years time when we had the Premier League First Division and that did not attract any crowd. That is why we had to go back to the drawing board when we knew club licenses was coming and to redo it. We at a point now where we are moving forward in terms of it. The long-term plan for the club football is to create a championship league where we're going to go back to Premier League, First Division and Second Division. The dream and the aspiration is to make that competition independent and separate outside the control of the SLFA, so that the necessary expertise and the resources can be able to go within that specifically. So at least the club is going to have a season with 45 games. But once the SLFA continue to manage it, will not be able to give you home and away, not within a 10 months period with all what we're doing.
All right, apparently people are afraid to call and let their voices be heard because they send in all the messages to the platform. Somebody says, I would like to know what type of training our coaches are getting to update their skill set on a regular basis in order to move our players forward.
I'm not sure what the person means by regular. There is a structure in place. What we have done in the last 2.5 years is that we have focused on the license, where all the clubs under the requirement must have a licensed coach. And come December 31st, 2017, we said that once that time comes, no first division team is going to go onto the field if they don't have the licensed coach. You will have to go onto the field without the licensed coach, and we expect that by now that every single club is going to have the licensed coach. We have already started on our program in 2018 for a C license, where we're going to take the best in all the 80 we did. Probably last year and year before, we did a total of 75 D license coaches. We will take 45 of that in order to move to the C license. And whilst we are here, Kenton, we have 3 regional instructors who are now qualified to do an evaluation in preparation of supervising the D license for us. I think we managed to submit 3 names to CONCAF to be regional instructor, and I think sometime last year, I think early this year, CONCAF did accept all 3 and train them for us. So we are at an advantage where those guys are actually responsible to contribute to the upkeep of the technical competence of the game.
All right. Somebody says, keep up the good work you're doing, Mr. Cooper. People don't understand how the sport works. The SLFA is under the guidance of its governing body, FIFA, and they must meet FIFA mandate and requirements. Likewise, CONCACAF. The onus is on the under-19 districts and the players to deliver. All right. Okay, so that is just soaps there. I cannot really, I cannot vouch or confirm the statements being made there. All right. Somebody says, would the SLFA consider privatization of club league competition? No serious footballing nation, and that's very true. No serious footballing nation runs their Premier Leagues. The FAs most times just run knockout competition. Why not list to blackout divisions or veterans?
There is going to be no addition to those existing tournaments. They are already occupied too much time on the SLFA calendar. What we want to do with the clubs, as I indicated, is to make it a championship league on its own outside of the ambit of the SLFA and create an additional membership for it. So it's part of the SLFA but being managed and controlled by a private entity, and it's not going to be Black Hat, it's not going to be Vicious, it is not going to be Super League.
All right. So what he says, our biggest problem now is certain clubs and districts have the upper hand over others. Some clubs and districts are allowed to do whatever they like, whilst other struggling clubs get punished for any little mistake done. And the column mentioned about the president needs to address the way he deals with some players. I agree totally.
Which players deal with what players?
Well, I guess with certain players, I guess when we talk about persons, I guess like you spoke to personal attacks and how you deal with persons who would personally attack you for, I guess, your positions on football development and that sort of thing. And I think there was a caller who spoke to your personality with dealing with those individuals. I think that's what they're talking about.
But which are the clubs that does get away with things while the others? I am not aware of that. I know there is a compliance unit which has done everything it was supposed to have done. I'm not saying that the unit is 100% efficient, but I think what they have done in the last 2.5 years must be given the necessary credentials for them to continue their good work. Sometimes you make this decision based on give and take and not necessary on what transpired. You cannot have repeated offenders, as I call them. I think one of my office may have you label them as persons who want to play football, but sometimes you get the same set of persons doing the same thing over and over, and the reality is that it just cannot work in the structure that we want to push. So unless I don't have specifics, I will never be able to address it.
Okay. All right. Somebody's sending a message on Trail X3x3. Okay, so all right. I guess I'll just feature that in the news tomorrow. But let me just get to that message because the person actually sent it. All right, we have a final call. Good evening. You're live. Go ahead with a contribution. Can you turn on the volume of your television set, please?
I got a question for Mr. Cooper there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling from Sufre. Former referee Charles Nestor. They had a competition.
Listen. Can you turn down the volume of your television set, please? Because it's creating a terrible feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the President's Cup they had between the FA in Sufre and the FA and the former FA competition, and then we are waiting for payment and we don't get paid. So I'm just putting that to Mr. Cooper.
Yes, referees.
That competition has finished and then we don't get paid.
Okay. Mr. Cooper, competition in Sufre and the persons don't receive their payment.
I think his first course of action.
Black one for one, that tournament, yeah. So
I think the first course of action should have been to address it with your league as a referee. He comes under the direct control of the SLFA by extension, the league. So if he has an issue with the league not being able to pay, I think he should put that in writing to the SLFA. He's not going to get me to commit to say that they have not been paid all day.
All right, so you understand, caller? Do you understand? At the end of the day, you speak to your league and then you send it, and then and then your league makes your representation to the SLFA, and and the issue will be dealt with.
okay.
All right, satisfied? Thank you. Good night for your contribution.
Yeah, everybody.
All right. So we've pretty much run out of time. Mr. Cooper, just let me. I'll get to some of the other messages there. Person seem very, 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 very desirous of sending WhatsApp messages. The next time I'm having Mr. Cooper or president of an association here, I am not going to do WhatsApp because I literally have over 100 and something WhatsApp messages. And persons, when you do that, the answering to the questions, it would take a little longer. So, Mr. Cooper, it's 10 o'clock. Last words from you and your organization.
As we have indicated, our mandate, we have an international mandate, and the plan for us is to continue to grow the game, develop it, and to move this country to the next Olympics or the next World Cup. It's our desire to see the game continue to play, and we just hope and pray that we could get more persons into the game and attempt to get more private sector and government support for football in this country.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Cooper, for coming on this set. I know for sure, a lot of questions always been asked about football development. It is the most popular sport in St. Lucia, and I appreciate your candor, being candid on everything. No holds barred, answering all the questions most of the questions that I had for you. Still have so many there, but we're never able to get to it. So thank you so much for coming on the set. And of course, you guys always welcome to come and speak about football development. Is something that we need more discussion on. So I'm just going to get to some of the messages, and before I close, hey, good night, Mr. Cooper, doing a great job. Keep it up. Somebody says 2 goal projects, a headquarters, a new home for football in Granivier coming soon. A great job. Somebody asked, what is the next calendar? What's next on the calendar for St. Lucia's national team? Preparation throughout all age groups. I think we're out of time, so I could briefly touch on that. I think we mentioned under 23 football competition, which is supposed to start next month. I think the under 14s, the 20s, the under 14s is getting ready for some regional football.
Boys and girls.
Boys and girls. All right, to name a few. Okay, we'll not be able to get to that now. Clarification on the growth and quality of the game. Agree that with all the resources, funds, coaching, training, and venues, the quality of the game was better 20 years ago. That person is of the opinion that that the resources and the funds are better, but the quality for him not as good. I'm not going to give you a chance to answer. We finished with you already. You say all what you had to say. All right, somebody says good stuff, good conversation. Enjoyed the conversation. All right, thank you, St. Lucia. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would have wanted for more to have been done in our 1.5 hour space of time, but people seem to have been very, very shy tonight. I looked down on my phone and persons are asking questions. Well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to call in and let your voice be heard. If you have a particular position, you shouldn't be shy with your particular position. It's your position. We're not going to run behind you. But thank you so much. I think we had a very good discussion. We had the lack of as many calls lent itself to a lot more being discussed when it comes to football. And the football is something that definitely would draw additional conversation. Definitely, again, St. Lucia, for me, more club football, the better for me. I think if they have more games, Northern United winning this year, that's my position. But right now it looks a little bit late. Platinum, definitely the favorites to win it all. I can tell you guys, based on my analysis of the balance of the games left, they have the easiest way to winning that title and making their way to that CONCACAF competition. So Platinum they did the hard work at the beginning of the tournament. If they take the foot off the gas, then you Uptown still in with a chance, big players still in with a chance. VSADC, very good chance of winning. Obviously, Northern United, very good chance of winning as well. Big players would still in with a chance to win the competition. So definitely on Wednesday night, I promised all my persons in Viewfort that I will be there to see that game. I circled it on the calendar as soon as it came out. Northern United versus Uptown Rebels. Definitely want to take in that game. I'll be making a trek to Viewfort, God willing, because I'm not going to miss that whooping that Northern United is going to put on Uptown in front of their home crowd. Shout out to Mervyn Cucubelas, Bosco, Easy, all the guys in Viewfort, Titus TTL, all of I'll be there to see you all cry on Wednesday night. All right. On behalf of our entire sports team, thank you so much for inviting us into your homes. I'm Kenson Casbury signing out. Good night.